welcome to Timberborn and the settlement of the Skyborn. My name is Zedek, and I'm on a mission to push this game as much as I possibly can. You see, I want to make a skyscraper city for the beavers. But to get there, we've got to start with humble beginnings. Last episode, I kickstarted a brand new colony, and just in that first episode, we managed to get a bad water diversion system, kickstart our economy, and even get all the way to metal. And this episode, it's all going to be about scaling up that economy. I want to get to building skyscrapers as quickly as I can. So that's going to mean growing our population, growing our industry, and probably starting to build a real dam and real bad water diversion system. So one of the first things on my mind going to this episode is I want a better bad tide diversion system. So if you're into this map, we're playing on the ancient Causeway map. And it has this really interesting broken causeway that crisscrosses the map. And our water sources originate from this causeway, kind of in the middle part here and the middle part over here. And that's kind of annoying when it comes down to the bad tides, because that's just going to dump that water everywhere on us. Especially for here, where you can see building any diversion system is going to run into all these ruins. So kind of a medium-term play for me is figuring out how I can get some diversion system in here, but that's probably going to involve tearing out all of these ruins. Over on the other side of the map, however, we've got kind of an easier play here. You can see the water sources here, they just run down this causeway, and I could probably slice into something here with some sluice gates. I have a feeling it's going to take a while to get crews up there to prep all of this, but what I can do is at least build the pathway up there and see if I can get crews to actually start working on removing these ruins. It's kind of messy, but this is just temporary until we can rip all this stuff out. And I need to do something similar for here. I'm going to at least need stairs some way up this causeway so that beavers can get to build a diversion system. I think access via this side is going to be the easiest route. Fairly expensive with planks, but we'll do it for now. Next up, I want to do something about our population. That's kind of a limiting factor as we start to build out this economy, and we've only got enough breeding pods to support roughly 30 beavers. So I want to slowly start inching this up to 40. Now, one limitation I've added to myself in this game is that, given it's the Skyborn, all the breeding pods have to be raised somehow. So these ones at least I have on top of a building. I think I'm going to add the next couple of breeding pods on top of this bridge. It's kind of elevated, so it's kind of, I don't know, honorary Skyborn. Really, once we get up to skyscrapers, all these breeding pods are going to be moved up to the highest point I can manage. And as the good season comes back, you can see another challenge I'm going to run into with this at least central water source. You can see it kind of splits between these two paths, and this map makes really interesting use of 3D water. You can see that this water kind of curves around here into the main river, while this one actually goes over a tunnel way down there and connects with this bad water source. So this is kind of tricky when it comes time to making the diversion system. I'm actually kind of tempted to turn off one half of this. Because you notice that with that tunnel there, I might be able to populate this stream by a different method. So if I open this tunnel right here, I can get water all the way down here. And, you know, maybe if I just blocked this portion off, I could connect this stream back up. One of the nice things of doing that then is ultimately I could get maybe rid of this bridge, and I don't have to worry about keeping this half of this water source always open. Anyways, something to worry once we kind of clean this up, because I can't do much for it yet. And in a few short days, we've managed to get everything mostly built up now. We've got our path going all the way up to the stream, and luckily we've got people starting to pull out these ruins. And it looks like the last little bit of this staircase is going in. So while they're finishing building up that, I want to queue up the next kind of phase of the diversion system. If this is bad water in here, I'm going to want to divert it somewhere to off the edge of the map. I'm thinking long term, what I'm going to do is dump it here and then route it to this side. The only downside is I really don't want to flood this area. That would be not so great. So ultimately, I do need some beavers over here to build levees on this section. That looks easy enough though, because we've already got nice road access to it over here. So we'll get that queued up. And the other part I think I want to take care of is what I was mentioning earlier. This area right here, it's getting really annoying to work with water splitting in the two directions that way. I think what I would like to do is connect these two creeks. So that's going to look something kind of like this. Unfortunately, it is kind of a pain to get back there. I don't actually really know the best way to even get there. You know, probably going under this area right here is the most direct route I've got. It's just kind of expensive in terms of stairs, but we can run that across. Then later we can come back and we can tear all that stuff out. I think that's something that is interesting with this map, is that they've got all these different blockages in different parts of the map. So you can really kind of choose how you're going to divert water, so it kind of gives you some options to play with. But as a little short diversion, I'm noticing we're starting to get some injured beavers. And that's probably from our smelter here. I'm guessing that as we're getting more heavy industry buildings, we're injuring them a bit. Well, I think we have, 500 science almost. We can start splurging on a few more amenities. I think one medical bed. We'll start with one for now. We don't have a ton of injured beavers yet to worry about. And, maybe we can get a shrub. It'll probably give an aesthetic bonus, and we can just shove that right next to some of the buildings. And in just about a cycle, we've got most of this plan in motion now. But I just realized I made a bad mistake. So you can see this part, that levee, that's fine, but where I'm realizing I went wrong is over here. So you can see I'm connecting these two creeks with this levee here. But what I didn't account for is that this water is not going to have anywhere to go until I open everything in the middle. So this is just going to build up a ton of demand and then start overflowing. To prevent that, I should probably rush demolishing some of this stuff. I think I need somebody to destroy this, and I need to get some people to destroy a connection with this area back here. We'll see if I can get that done in time. Yeah, you can see it already starting to overflow. Luckily, most of this food over here is going to be resilient, so it's not going to be horrible, but we should get this fixed as quickly as we can. If we can get that one destroyed, it will buy us some time, and then somebody should be able to get down here. Yeah, best laid plans. Yeah, the general approach is fine, I just kind of messed up the timing. Oh, well, it looks like we kind of lucked out. A drought just started anyways, so that gives us a few more days. And you can see as that blockage was built there too, it did connect this. So ultimately, whether the water exits this way or this way, it's all connected to the same river system now. And as things start to drain, let's kind of revisit where I was going with this bad water diversion system. So you can see, I'm probably going to have good water go to the left, seal off everything else, and then have the bad water go north. Unfortunately, that's going to dump it on all these trees. So probably as part of this, I'm going to have to start slowly saving up for some overhangs so I can kind of repair some of this. Our science is inching upwards, so probably one 3x3 overhang would give me enough to probably get it to here. Which, unfortunately, I'm then going to have to tear this stuff out. And look at that. We're going to need probably TNT, because that dirt is kind of screwing up this aqueduct. Well, if that is the long-term play, well, I think I need two things. One, I need to continue tearing out all of this stuff. But two, I need to start investing in dynamite. And to get dynamite, I need bad water. I'm trying to think of the best place we can get a good supply of bad water. I think I've got two, really choices. The first one is over here. Assuming we're not in a drought, this does fill up, and it's not that far away from our main district. The other location is over here, kind of in these foothills. The terrain is really gnarly, but one of the nice things about this area is it could potentially be dammed off. And that would give us kind of a more reliable source of bad water during these droughts. It's just really gnarly terrain to get in here and work. Honestly, what may be better is to develop this after I have TNT. So with that in mind, I think I am going to start it off over here. And I think I can get away with, I don't know, maybe building some platforms over here. And we can start with just one. And since we're probably going to be using a lot of this, we can put in a medium tank to hold it all. And of course, if we're pumping this bad water, to get it into explosives, we need an explosives factory. Now, I think this is a big building, but downtown area should still have this extra space I left open just for that. So we can plop one of those down next to the smelter, and that should be good. And with the planks from that wet season, we're finally going to be able to finish that bad water pump and our explosives factory. Now, unfortunately, we are getting more injured beavers because of all this heavy industry, but at least we are starting to get some explosives being built. And that's going to be a good step for this map, especially given how rocky and broken it up it is. And I think this is going to put us in a good space to continue with that bad water diversion system. So we still need a little bit more time on this corner here. As you can see, we have just one more tower of ruins to pull out. But I think we're probably good to start building something over here. Now, luckily, because we've had some time, we do have a little bit of metal blocks stockpiled. So what I'm thinking we can do is we can run down here with a nice road, get all the way to this side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out these blockages, replace them with sluice gates. So we're going to have kind of a very cheap diversion system where sluice gates go this way, and another set of sluice gates will go this way. This is going to be a little bit disruptive in the beginning. And let's see, we're also going to need somebody down here to start tearing out these blockages. And there goes that water off the edge. It's going to overflow very quickly, but we'll unlock those sluice gates. And then we can start planning on the repair over here, which would only let out good water. So you can see, I timed this wrong. I don't have enough builders to actually clear these blockages in time, and I've managed to flood all of this pit, even though I put levees there specifically to stop that. Well, that's unfortunate. I don't need it very soon, so it'll eventually evaporate. But I keep forgetting that I'm early game. I don't exactly have a ton of builders to work with here. Seeing this did actually change some of my mind here. So you can see, originally I was thinking of having this just left to be bad water. This is actually pretty nice green space. It's nice and flat. Yeah, that makes me really tempted to actually maintain this as green space going forward, and then maybe make the bad water diversion system go this way, given that this is already lost. I think the only thing I would end up having to do is kind of make a dividing line kind of underneath here. And then I could have sluice gates on this direction to keep this filled up with green water or good water, and sluice gates on the other side to keep this side populated with the bad water. Yeah, I think I like that. I'll just preemptively queue up some of the work to do that. It's been a couple days, and we now have the sluice gates set up here as well as this overflow. Now, I've got a little bit of a challenge here. I need to get down here, and I also need to destroy this blockage. The problem is, as soon as I do that, I think this bad water is going to mix in here and kind of pollute and injure my beavers. I'm going to try to be tricky here. So I know that if I have water flowing in this direction, it should kind of push the bad water away. So what I'm going to try to do is wait until I have road access down here. Then I'm going to tear these out temporarily and replace them with sluice gates. And in that time, with that water pushing the bad water away, I'm going to get beavers down here to tear out the blockage. You know, I think that pressure is going to allow them to be saved and not contaminated. Let's see if this works. So we've got stair access. I'll go up here and I'll demolish these two blockages. There goes the water. That's going to cause the overflowing, and that should give me a brief window of time to get in there and tear out those blockages. I don't think they're going to get contaminated from that. And then once that's done, we can go ahead and seal back up there. Oh, and actually this is in perfect timing because we've got our first bat tide in 3 days. So this one, it doesn't really matter. It'd be nice if we could finish this in 3 days, but even if we don't, the bad water is just going to be diverted down here. Let's go check on the status of our other water source that could get contaminated. Now, that's a good sign. These guys have been slowly clearing out all of this debris. In fact, I think they've got most of it all done, except for up here. So I do want all this debris long-term gone, so I'm just going to kind of shift this crew over a bit. The ruins make a really interesting challenge on this map. But other than that, how is this going to affect us when the bad tide hits? Well, we do have a problem here, because what's going to happen is when the bad water hits, it's going to go both of these directions. This way and this way. When it comes down here, this, because of my changes, that's not going to just pollute this little segment like it originally would. It's going to curve back around and pollute everything. So I'm actually really glad I caught this. We can fix that pretty quickly here, I think, if we just introduce a gate right here. But what I'm going to do, close that off like that, and then introduce just one height floodgate. And as long as we rush this is probably the most important thing any of the beavers could be working on right now. But as soon as the bad tide hits, I'm going to seal this, and that's going to force this water to go down here. And then I'm going to seal these gates as well. So this part, this segment right here will be contaminated, and this segment right here. That should give us everything here still nice and protected. You know, now that I think of it, there was really no reason to even have this open at all. I mean, given that these two are connected anyways, the only thing it's really watering is this little segment of this bridge. Ooh, okay, I'm glad I did a test run here. Something I didn't realize, there's probably too much current behind this to fit down one little waterfall here. All of this is probably, I think, 4 CMS, and this edge right here can only support 2.2 CMS. So by the act of me blocking this, I'm creating a bottleneck in the system. But I think what I need to do is create a new edge in here for this water to flow out. And I think I can do that relatively cheaply. I think the bottleneck in this system is right here. So if I could maybe dynamite this square right here, we should be able to get that back. And we are very fortunate because earlier this episode, we did invest in dynamite, which I'm not sure why I didn't add storage for it, but we only have 5 dynamite. That's more than enough. We could just put 1 down here. Oh, no, we don't actually have enough science for it. So we need an additional 150 science before we can actually place dynamite, even though we have it. Okay, let's try this. We've got 2.5 days. Can we rush the science for dynamite? Can I just plop down a few extra inventor huts and just try to rush it as quickly as I can? Okay, I've spammed all the science. We've got all our spare beavers working on it, and we just need 100 more science, and we have a day and a half to go. I think we should be able to make that. Okay, 600. Let's see if this is going to work, because if it doesn't, we're going to be in a tough spot. So we'll unlock the dynamite, plop that down here, rush it, and see what happens. So that should hopefully increase the throughput. I'm going to try this experiment again. We're going to close this water. Well, it looks like it's flooding? Where's the flooding coming from? Oh, it's flooding because of this. There's actually a little hole there. So when I dynamited that out, that exposed that hole with the overhang. Okay, that's going to be fine for this. I'm probably going to lose all these trees. I'm not using them anyways. I could destroy this overhang and do some other stuff, but I do want to keep this, because eventually I'm going to continue to build this bad water diversion system. So if I tear this out, I'm just going to re-add it later. Wow, I really cut that close to the wire. I got really fortunate here that I tested this out before things actually went. I think I called success too soon. I just realized that this water down here does connect with this down here when it eventually overflows. I didn't realize there was this big set of dirt there. Okay, I need to think of a really cheap way to redirect this flow out of here. I'm going to try to do 2 things. One, I'm going to try to replace this overhang. I don't want to, but I'm going to try to rush it. The other thing I'm going to try to do is make a drainage ditch. But before I forget, let's go back over here and seal this thing off, as well as open up this gate. There's the bad water. It's probably going to get here. Yep, immediately falling down. Over here, I can see this part has actually started working, so that's perfect. And this part of the diversion system looks like it's working fine. I see that heading out there. Very good. Now, this is the part that I'm worried about. You can see this pollution hitting. So let's get this built as quickly as I can. It's unfortunate, but that's going to take a lot of levees to get up there. But that's going to solve this. But because that's all vertical, they're going to have to build it one at a time. You know, this is kind of a mess. I really got hit by not calculating how much waterfall edges were in here. Hopefully we can get this quickly, because I am not liking the look of that. We have enough water in here. Hopefully that's going to dilute. And we only have a 1-day bad tide, so this is not, you know, the end of the world for us. We have enough food stockpiled and water stockpiled, given it's only a day. Now the bad tide is over, so I can already see it starting to come back with good water. We'll flush the system, and we were 1 levee away from fixing it over here. Yeah, if this was a very long, multi-day bad tide, this would not have been good for us. Well, lesson learned. At least I know what to do now, so hopefully this isn't going to be a problem going forward. Okay, all that drama aside, I think we're in a better place than when we started. We do actually have a functioning bad tide diversion system now. A couple of things kind of on my mind now. First off, we should set our working hours back to something sane. I see a lot of people being very angry because they don't have time to eat or drink. And, you know, at this point, I think we're about ready to just start scaling things up even more. Our population has been inching up to, you know, close to 50. I think what we really need to do is increase our food, increase our water, and just keep increasing that population. I'm gonna have to wait a little while anyways, just to have the beavers clear the rest of these ruins. So let's kind of do that. Let's just figure out how to increase our population. So first one I'm looking at is our water supply. Our water supply, it's no longer keeping up. So I don't know, I think I can maybe fit in here another set of pumps, maybe some more tanks. And while I'm at it, I wonder if I can put in some more water wheels, kind of like this. So I've just stacked 2 more here. Hopefully this is going to get 3 more water wheels working so we can double our power once again. Next up for me is food. We do have a good number of food, but I'm seeing us not keep up quite as much as I would like. Now, one of the things is over here, we're not keeping up with our cassava, even though we have some fully grown. So that just tells me that we need another farmhouse over here. But I would like to continue to grow that food even more, and we can probably start introducing additional food supply. Now, one of the things that I've had access to but I haven't used is mangroves. So mangroves can be used for wood as well as food, and they end up having to be planted by a forester. Now that we have access to all of this in here, this could be a potential good area to grow mangroves. So what I'm thinking here, I'd like to maybe make a road over to this side. That's going to give us access to maybe this green area for some farms. And then I can put a few platforms and some stairs down. And, well, it won't give me access to everything down there, but that is a fairly good amount. And I can fill in everything that I can in with mangroves. Just won't be able to get kind of this pocket back down in here. And this area is going to make a really good farming zone. Let's see, we just have a few ruins here and there, but, you know, I do have some extra beavers. Let's get some of them down here to just start ripping that out. And I'm also going to get some lumberjacks in here to start tearing some of this other stuff out too. And you know, since we did unlock TNT, I'm going to start eating away at some of the edges here, just to maximize how much space I have to grow food. We need a little bit of time for all this to clear the queue, but I'm liking the way this is shaping up. As we get some of this torn out, I'm really eyeing this to be corn and eggplant production. The one thing that we're going to need to be able to do any of that is we'll need to unlock, I think, the food factory. And because the food factory is like a food multiplier, like 1 corn becomes 5 corn rations, I think this is going to really let us start booming our population. And after just a couple of days, most of our build queue is now complete. So that should let us start eating away at this cliff face. One of the things that I'm not super happy about is our water supply still. You can see even with me doubling our supply of water here, we are just on the cusp of breaking even with our water. So our water has been inching upward, but it's not by a large margin. So I would like to put in more pumps. I'm thinking we can kind of rearrange some of this space to maybe fit in more, maybe 2 more pumps in here to help with this growing colony. And maybe we can do a really quick side task here. When I put in this smelter, I didn't really have enough space for storage for it, because we didn't have access to double platforms. We can afford that now, so I'm going to put in some extra storage. Now, in the background, I'm going to have the beavers continue to start tearing out these trees in preparation for the cornfields. But in the meantime, what I want to do is go check back on our bad water diversion work. The reason for that is eventually I do want to start building a dam in the middle. That's like ultimately my goal with all this work, is so I can have a more stable supply of water. And the only thing really stopping me from doing that is the fact that this bad water gets diverted over here and pollutes this chain. Otherwise, I could have these 2 aqueducts kind of dumping into some giant holding tank in the middle of the river. And really, to solve that, I need to fix the aqueduct here. And that was my goal with a lot of this work over here with all these scrappers trying to pull stuff out. So let's take a look. I think they've actually done a quite good job. They only have this scrap right here that they can't get to. So if we dynamite this stuff out, we should be able to start effectively rebuilding some of this stuff. Now, the only thing kind of stopping me right now is to fix this aqueduct, I need to buy a bunch of overhangs with science. But I've been kind of holding out, and I'll tell you why. I've been eyeing the number cruncher. We have so much excess power with that early zigzag power plant I created that we could actually rush a number cruncher pretty soon. And if we do, that's going to solve a lot of our science issues early game. Yeah, I'm going to hold off on fixing this aqueduct just a little bit longer until I can get my first number cruncher. So let's start doing some planning for where we're going to fit in this number cruncher. Well, right now we don't have an integrated power network, so it's more or less going to have to be somewhere near here. I'm thinking I might be able to fit it in somewhere around here. We could replace these inventor huts, get those beavers back for elsewhere. Now, we do need more fermenters as well, so I'm wondering if this could solve both of those problems at the same time. And then from there, if I pulled out this inventor hut, this fermenter will have power, and I think I should be able to fit a number cruncher, nestled in somewhere in here. And our drought has started, and an 8-day drought. That's our longest drought yet. And this is an example where I really would have liked to have that damn storage there. And it's going to be disruptive to our industry too, because 8 days without power is going to mean none of our production is going to take place. And the lack of power is probably going to play in another way for us. Our food is not great. You've been noticing that our fermented cassava is starting to go down. And our fermented cassava requires power. And without that, that means no cassava for this 8 days. So we're going to have to rely on berries as well as kohlrabies. And you'll notice our kohlrabi has been inching down as well. We could actually have kind of a food crisis starting to build up in the background here. We might have to rush some of our food production over here. Well, to get us through this period, what I'm going to do is clean up some of these temporary buildings that I had early on. And I think I'm going to put in a kohlrabi farm, just to buy us some time, and then I can swap it out for corn. So this should help a little bit. And the other thing I'm going to do is jump back over here, and I'm going to try to get our industry just kind of crawling along a little bit to keep food coming in. I'm going to put a large manual power wheel in here. That should at least allow us to get some of those fermented cassava coming in. Yeah, because I'm not liking that progression. We're almost down to just berries to survive off of. That is not a good spot to be in. And it looks like some of these mangroves are actually pretty close to bearing fruit too. So that's going to give us another kind of stable supply. Okay, we've got 2.5 days left in this drought. Our food supply, I think, is inching up a little bit better, so we're fine there. Drinking water is all fine. And taking a look at our water supply, we're going to make it no problem. And I think I'm ready to start working on that number cruncher. It's going to take a little bit to build, but it should be ready to go online as soon as we get back into the good season. Now, I can put it right here. One thing that's holding me back, I know this was my plan, but as I look back here, we're really starting to run out of space for industry. And if I kind of put this right here, I'm limiting my expansion. Not super keen about this, but I think what I'm going to do instead is build the number cruncher into the river. I know this eats up into this passage, but what I'm going to probably do is get over here and widen the river in the other direction. One thing I could take care of is our homeless problem. We've got 20 homeless beavers. I wonder if we could actually start working on our very first tower. I know that the Skyborn, that was the goal, is to start having skyscrapers. I don't think we're going to have enough to build a permanent skyscraper, but I think we could maybe splurge and make something like a housing complex. I've got this space over here where I have this water. I wonder if I could pull off something here. Now, let's kind of plan something out in this dead space here for a moment. It's possible to make kind of a winding stairs inefficiently, just using a pattern like this. So you can see you're just kind of zigzagging back and forth up each floor. It's a lot of platforms for only going up 3 stairs. And if you had a nice run, for example, like this more or less accomplishes the same thing in a lot less space. But this is infinitely scalable upwards. So early game though, what this would let me do is I could probably build something stacked like this. And again, to make it even worse, to get access to a home on this side, we'd actually have to put additional platforms here. So we could just make this staircase stacked as high as we want early game. And with maybe a little bit of rearranging, we've got enough space that we could pull that off right here. I think I can just repeat that early design I had. Maybe something a little bit more like this. So I'll let them start building this part. But what I'm thinking is I'm wondering if I could add overhangs over here somehow. And that would maybe give me access to more building space. Maybe we could put a rooftop terraces that way. That would be kind of nice, efficient use of this space instead of just losing it all to platforms. We just need a little bit more science, so I'm going to hold off. I'm gonna let the beavers build this, and hopefully by the time they've got that foundation, I can afford those overhangs. Especially with the drought ending, our number cruncher should probably come online soonish. And there it goes. And with it online, our science is just gonna go up so fast at this point. And within a day, we got the rest of the science we need for those overhangs. So let's kind of feel this out. How densely could we put rooftop terraces in here? Yeah, that is going to be nice and compact and solve our housing problems. Okay, we'll start with that, but as this level progresses, I'm going to keep on stacking these higher and higher. That is the beginning of our first skyscraper. And I won't get too attached to it because late game and mid game, we're probably going to be able to build things way crazier than that. With all our science, water, and food taken care of though, what I really want to get back to is solving that bad water diversion system. And that's going to involve repairing the aqueduct. So for the aqueduct, some of this is going to be a little tricky. We can start off by filling in kind of the holes in the aqueduct, and then we're going to need to figure out how to get more bridges in here. Well, I think that means we're going to have to definitely get these trees out. Ideally, I'd like to also start fixing up this part. So in which case, I would need some bad water diversion system here to let good water over in this direction and bad water over in this direction once it's ready to go. So I'll just try to fill in the gaps as best I can, and then we'll probably come in and tear out some of these overhangs that just don't quite fit. I've given it a couple days just to try to clear the build queue, and things are looking pretty good. We've got our new buildings in with our stacked rooftop terraces. We've got pretty good with our food and water supply now, and it looks like they've been very busily cutting down all the trees here. I think that means the next step is going to be to start building up here. Now, before I do, I'm going to probably put down a building hut and maybe a hauler. I do have an excess population as things have started to grow, and I think that's going to make some of this construction a little bit easier. And with those extra builders and haulers in play, we can start fixing up the rest of this aqueduct. I could make it all nice and pretty, but I kind of like, at least until I'm coming back and building it for real, just making it look like a really patched job. Okay, we've got the bad tide arriving in the morning. I've primed our diversion system. Let's see if it's actually going to work this time. Well, 2-day bad tide, not bad. Okay, no more leak, everything working fine, no pollution, very good. Now, what I'm going to kind of do prep-wise, this one is going to dump into some holding tank. So if you imagine that this is just going to reach a certain point, so I don't have to rebuild this overhang. It's going to get here, and I'll just make a dam. Basically split this river in two. So to make that easier, I'm going to start working at flattening some of this terrain and clearing out some of these trees. Okay, so that should take care of that. And, you know, to speed up some of the construction over here, I'm thinking what I should probably do is start hauling in some supplies up to the top. And this is an option I've got only because we've got haulers in play now. But I can basically have these guys just cart up the supplies that we're using the most. And before you know it, the bad tide's already over. Okay, that's a good sign that our diversion system is working fine. And you know, another nice benefit, once I get the bad tide diversion system going this way, I'm going to be able to come up here and just very easily put levees right here. And that's going to let me reclaim this entire corner of the map. Will all be green and secure and protected. Which, really, when you think of it, when I zoom out, it's like getting a whole new quarter of the map back. And with that space cleared, I can at least outline something to get the water routed back into the river. Something like this should work for now. For example, I could put some sluice gates down there. So with that, things are actually shaping up pretty nicely here. So you can see we've almost finished this aqueduct run here. The next major part is just repairing this aqueduct corner here, kind of finishing the final touches. So I think I can demolish a couple pieces in here, and really I think I need people in here to just kind of complete this bridge. Okay, that's looking good. Now here's the last kind of challenging piece with this build. At some point I'm going to want to seal this off like this all the way around the border. Right, so that way the water is all the way up at the top. But when I do this, that's the way the water is flowing. It's going to have to go somewhere. So before I fill this part in, I want this stretch of the aqueduct ready to go, or I'm going to cause a bunch of flooding. So I'm going to do as much as I can to more or less prep this area to be good to go and then fill those in last. And after just a few days, we've already got most of this built, and I think we're ready to enter the final stages here. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to start with this one. I don't think we're going to make it in time for the end of this drought, but let's seal this off. This water should still flood in this direction as we build it. Oh, here comes the water. Looking good. And we should probably put some gates over here too. We only want to let bad water out through this route. Oh, and look at that. You can already see it's starting to work, as we'd expect over here, as we raise that water up. So all we really need to do is get these in and seal this last little bit here, and we're good to go. Then as soon as we get that last piece in there, everything should be redirected down this waterfall. And I'm guessing this is about 4 CMS, so this waterfall does have enough edges to work with. And then with that done, we can just finally put in the final touches over here. And then over on this side, I'm going to put some sluice gates down at the bottom, and I'm going to put some dams up top to be kind of overflow. I'm going to be constantly kind of moving these up as I extend the height of the dam. But this is a very shallow dam in the beginning, which in the grand scheme of things is next to nothing compared to all the water that we're actually, surfacing here. So this is just really like a baby dam. This is the beginning of something that's going to be bigger as we grow. And there we go, our first baby dam. And the last thing I think I'm going to do is clean up some stuff up here. I can make it look a little bit more symmetrical just by rearranging some things. And I just realized I had forgotten sluice gates over here to prevent bad water from going in this direction off the waterfall. So as soon as this gets done, I think we're pretty secure now. And I'm thinking this is going to be a good stopping point for today. We did manage to get quite a bit done. All this bad water diversion system is much better than we had it before, and it's now completely automated. I don't have to mess with it at all. And more importantly, we now have an avenue to start stockpiling water. So anything I build in this dam is going to be maintained and crystal clear through all the bad tides. And even better, I've got a nice path to expand it all the way through here. Plus, on top of that, we've massively increased our food supply, we've got more water, we've got more power. Plus, that number cruncher catapulted our science almost up to 7K. So I am really looking forward to how things are shaping up. I hope you're enjoying this video and series, and I hope to catch you for the next one.